Hi everybody, this is a brief video for the instructions for lab number 5 about Q-sorts. So the first step is you should watch lecture number 12. Lecture number 12 about longitudinal research will cover quite a bit about Q-sets, and so that's a useful background for this lab. And then basically for this lab you're going to be doing two things. You're going to be actually doing a Q-sort, and we'll talk a little bit about this. So you're going to be doing a Q-sort, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. So number one, I want you to take a photograph of your Q-sort. And then what you'll do is you'll insert that picture into a Word document. And then after that, I want you to do some sort of reflection about the process of doing the Q-sort. So if you've watched lecture 12, you might have some background they can use. Otherwise, you can just sort of write your reflection about this methodology. What does it tell us about people? What are the good things about this methodology? What did you learn about this methodology? And so it's a reflection that's at least a full paragraph. It could be a couple paragraphs or 2 or 3. That's fine, but just sort of talk about, again, what you learned about this methodology, what it tells us about other people, or what we learn about people by doing this methodology, and any sort of insights that you have about the methodology. So it's a bit of an open reflection. And I think what you'll do is you'll probably have some insights as you're doing the methodology. So, well, what are you supposed to do? So, see down here in the lab, this is where you submit the lab. So if you go here where it says CAQ, print this document. So there's a Word document here, and this is literally a bunch of cards. And what I want you to do is I want you to print out these cards, and I don't know exactly how many sheets of paper, probably maybe 5 or 6 pages of paper, roughly. I'm just sort of guessing here. So print out this Word document. You can print it out at any store or any other. If you have a home printer, obviously you can use that. And then cut these into cards. And so you can see here there's lines. And so you can simply cut at the lines to create a deck of cards. And then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using that deck of cards to describe somebody that you know. And so describe somebody that you know in terms of their personality. So these cards all have personality characteristics. So, well, how do you do that? So I'm going to give you the instructions. So you have a bunch of cards, and basically you need to shuffle the cards. I know if it's printed on paper, it will be a bit flimsy. It won't be the greatest shuffle, that's fine. If you print it out on cardboard, that's a little bit better, but that's more costly, so you don't need to do that necessarily. So just do your best. Just kind of shuffle the cards around. You don't want them to be in any order necessarily. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go through the steps of describing a person. And so each of these cards you want to think about in step number 2, I guess. So step number 1 is to shuffle them. Why do we shuffle them? Because if you use this as a methodology, you want to make sure that you shuffle it so that somebody didn't use it before you and there's some sort of pattern there that you don't want to stick. So shuffle it, step number 1. Step number 2 is you put them into 3 piles. And so for each card, thinking about the person that you're describing their personality, for each card, does it describe them? Are they like this? Or is it something that they're opposite? They're not like this. So if it's something, somebody that is not protective of other people, that would be, doesn't describe them. And then you can also put cards where you think somebody's in the middle. You look at the card and you say, oh, they're kind of in the middle for this. Or if you don't have information. So for example, if I have the card number 9 and it says, is uncomfortable with uncertainty and complexity. Let's say that I've never seen this person I'm sorting the personality for, never seen them in that situation, and so I can't judge that. Put that in the middle. And so what I suggest is if the card describes them, put it in a pile on the right-hand side. If the card is something that they're opposite, so the card, you read the card and they say, oh, they're opposite of this, put it on the left side. If you read a card and you think they're in the middle, or you don't have information about this, put it in the middle deck. I should say middle pile. So you have 3 piles to start with. One pile, yes, they are kind of like that at least. No, they're not really like that. And then in the middle, or I'm not sure how to judge that. So once you have those 3 piles, we want to break each of those 3 piles into 3 more piles. And I've decided to sort of draw that. So we start off with 3 piles here. These are piles of the cards. So this pile is yes, this sounds like that person. They are kind of like this. This is no, they sound like they're, this is opposite. They're the opposite of what's on the card. And here, they're either in the middle or we're not sure. We can't judge it. So we have 3 piles. Now we want to break each of the 3 piles into 3 more piles. And here we want this pile to be, yeah, they are really opposite of this. I'm sort of drawing this graphically to sort of demonstrate the sorting. Yes, they're kind of not like that. They're the opposite, and yeah, they're kind of opposite. So we want to sort it in a way that the degree of how different they are from the card, how opposite they are from the card, coming out in these piles. This one way over here is they're really, really opposite. Here they're a little bit opposite, and here they're just a little bit opposite of that. So we want those cards to demonstrate that. So notice that really, really opposite is way over here on the left. Then we have something in the middle, and then we have something sort of. So this one's kind of going towards the middle. And then we want to break these into 3 piles. This is really unsure. This is sort of unsure or sort of in the middle. And this is also sort of in the middle. And then we do the same thing for, yes, this really sounds like them. This describes them. So it's sort of like a mirror of what we have over here. Something that is really like, wow, that really describes them. It goes over here on the right. And then we have something here that said, oh, yes, this does sound like them, but maybe not as extreme as the other one. It goes here. And then we have a pile here, which is like sort of. It's sort of like them, but it's not that strong. So if you notice here, we have sort of degrees of how these things describe them. And so the things on the far left and the far right really stand out. These are the things that they're either fully opposite of, or yes, they really are like this. And then the degree of how it describes them kind of goes down as you go towards the middle. So I want you to think about those things. And so in this step, this is going to be the tricky step. So this is the most tricky step because this is your final Q sort. So you notice here you have 9 piles. And I'm thinking about erasing some of this. Oops, I didn't want to erase that. That's okay, I can easily make that up. So we have 9 piles of cards. These 9 piles are translated into numbers. So it's kind of like a Likert scale that you were familiar with our questions. So if you remember our questionnaire thing, there's 7 here, there's 8, and there's 9. So we actually can translate this to numbers. And the numbers make sense when we see this now. So if they're really high on the card, they're a 9. If they're the opposite of the card, they're a 1. If they're in the middle, they're 5. So these card piles end up getting scores for them 1 through 9. And that's how we actually get our quantitative data from the Q set. So that's just sort of it conceptually. So here's the trick. So in your final sort here with these 9 piles, we use what's called a forced distribution. Forced distribution, which I believe I cover in the lecture on longitudinal research. I'm not going to spell it all out. Forced distribution. What does that mean? It means that we have a rule for the number of cards for each of the piles. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to erase this and erase this. So what are those rules? Well, I've posted that on Canvas. So if you go to Canvas, there's this document here and it says CAQ distribution. Click on that. You're going to get this document. You don't have to print this one out. This is just information. It tells you how many cards you need for each of the piles. So it's literally, these are number of cards. Yeah. I thought I could write on this. Just give me a second. That's not good. Give me a second here. Okay, here we go. So these are the number of cards. So it's on this document here. So you see pile number 1 has 5, 2 have 8, 3 has 12, 4 has 16, 5 has 18, 6 has 16, 12, 8, 5. You'll notice that it's like a pyramid. So if we have this, we have 5 here. So you put 5 cards here in this far pile. That's very much, they're the opposite of it. Then we have 8. I think we have 12 next up, but I want to check 12. Yep, 12 and 16. So we have 12 cards here. We have 16 cards here. There's 18 cards that go here. There's 16 that goes here. So it's again, it's like a pyramid. So it's symmetrical. There's 12 here. There's 8 here, and there's 5 here. So one thing to notice is that there's very few on the ends and more in the middle. And you have to have that number. So that's the rule, is you have to have those numbers of cards. And so there will be situations where you need to think, oh, is it a 2 or 3? And that's just a natural part of the Q sort. So that's the rule. And so what you'll end up with something that looks like this. It will look like a pyramid. 5, 8, 12, 16, 18, and then back down again. Again, it's the same thing, 5, 8, 12, 16. So the same number of cards on both sides. And again, over here on the far right it's very much describing the person you're doing the sort for. We call it very characteristic. So if you look at the thing in the CAQ, it says very much characteristic. So that's the 9. And then when we get to the middle, that's where they're either in the middle or we don't have information. So in the distribution, we call it neither uncharacteristic or characteristic. And then we get down here again, and those things that they're the opposite of is there's very few of those, which we call very uncharacteristic. So we're the opposite of that. So I have here me or the person. So you could use this Q sort to sort your own personality, but what I'm going to just ask you to do is to sort it for somebody that you know. So your sort will look like this. The cards way over here are really descriptive of the person. Cards over here, they're the opposite, and this is just stuff that they're in the middle or you're not sure how to judge. And you have to have these number of cards in each of the piles and make decisions. There might be some tough decisions between whether it's a 3 or a 4. You know, you have to think about that when you're doing the sort. So you're going to have cards that look like this. You're going to have it on your floor or on a table or something like that. Please take a picture of that sort. So after you've done the sort, take a picture of it and insert that photo file into a Word document. And then after that, have a reflection. Reflect about the process. What did you learn about Q sorts? Did you learn something about the person that you're sorting for? What sort of insights did you have doing this type of a measurement process? And so that's basically the lab. And give yourself a little bit of time. There's 100 cards, so my experience is if people who are new to this may take more than an hour to do the sort. So give yourself a little bit of time to do the sort. And then once you have the sort done and you have your reflection, that's it. Submit that as the lab. And in doing that process, you actually will help review the material in lecture number 12, so that will also help you prepare for the exam. So that's it for the lab instructions. Let me know if you have any questions.